I want to know what in the world Nathaniel Hackett is thinking by making Melvin Gordon the starter because he complained or some junk. It is Orange and Blue today to Cecil Lammey, soon to be joined by Andrew Mason. We got some interesting news from the Broncos today from Nathaniel Hackett talking about how Melvin Gordon's going to start. Okay, Melvin Gordon was seen pouting on the sidelines, and I think it's fairly accurate to say that. I don't think we're taking giant steps there, making assumptions, although I'm sure some people will be like, he wasn't pouting, he was just in bad mood, or he's banged up, or whatever, which is fine. Everyone's going to have excuses, but that looked like pouting to me from one Melvin Gordon. And then what you saw is him like several comments and tweets from people saying that he would be traded or he should be traded or he was good enough to be a committee with Javonte Williams, but he's not good enough to play over Latavius Murray. So lots of interesting things going on with the Denver Broncos. Andrew Mason here. And Mace, of course, I'm starting with the Melvin Gordon thing, of course, because color me surprised when Nathaniel Hackett says Melvin Gordon's going to start. Now, what does that mean? We'll get into that because I don't think it really means that much. It's still a committee. But let's talk about the, I guess, most surprising news of the day is Melvin Gordon's the starter against the Jets.
Yeah, and I think some of that is a little bit of a kind of a mea culpa for how things exactly went down as far as being informed or not being informed as for what was going on. You know, as Melvin said in the locker room this afternoon, when he was asked about starting again, he's like, "Yeah, I started last game too," and that was the thing. He started against the Chargers, and then by the second half, he wasn't playing, and there wasn't information conveyed to him as to why. I mean, if you're a quarterback and you get pulled, you start the game and you get pulled, somebody at least gives you an explanation, right? If it's a professional team. And that when I think, and of course, Melvin Gordon did tell NFL Network in the locker room after the game that he wasn't really given an answer by anybody on the sideline during the game as to why they de-emphasized him. So he met with Nathaniel Hackett yesterday. Seemed like things cleared the air. You do also wonder if maybe starting him is a precursor to getting him building up some trade value and getting him set up maybe to be dealt here in the next couple of games. I would say that certainly is also a possibility here too.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting to note because it's the hot hand approach, Mason, as you and I lament that. We're just like, just run the ball. Somebody please run the ball. So I guess, do they owe him an explanation? Quarterbackers different. And if they're going hot hand and everybody knows they're going hot hand, did Melvin ask? I don't think the NFL Network reporter asked him that, but did he ask or did he just say they didn't tell me?
I mean, he indicated that he was trying to, he was trying to ask around and didn't really get an answer. I mean, some of that may be kind of a communication thing involving him and coaches perhaps, but I am of the belief that if you're running a professional operation and somebody has a response, is given a role, and when you're starting, you have a role there. I mean, you might be a committee, but you're still the starter. You go from starting to not even getting a carry in the second half and just standing there on the sideline. I think if you're running a professional operation, it's the right thing to do to tell someone you're not being used and here's why. And I can speak of this from some personal experience as well, because a few years ago, I was on a video project, and I literally found out that I was not on the project going forward when I saw other people shooting it. So I have a lot of empathy for Melvin Gordon here. I think I would probably not be good on a jury because I actually got ruled out for a jury once because I mentioned how someone had stopped short intentionally because they were I'd experienced that someone stopped short intentionally knowing I might ram into them because they were trying to kind of game the insurance company. And I literally said that, and it was a similar thing. And I said, I've experienced it. And let's just say I'm not going to see this person's side because I've experienced the other side of this. And I remember the lawyers looking at each other and saying, yep, okay, now I'm the jury. So
right.
Yeah, I might be a little bit of have a little bit of a bias here on this because of my own personal and professional experiences that I've had. I think if you're running a professional operation and someone has a specific role, is a starter, and then by the second half you're not using him at all, I think the right thing to do is to explain what's going on and why, and not leave that person in the dark. This isn't Harry High School stuff. This is the NFL. Get it right.
This is the NFL, and I'll give you a little pushback, Mace, because I do not feel empathy for Melvin Gordon when he's on the sidelines and he's liking tweets about him being traded. And the NFL, and what you're saying about quarterbacks is correct. You replace the quarterback, you tell him. It's a running back, and it's hot hand. And the NFL's not about feelings. As barbaric as this game is, and as progressive as we would like it to be, and hopefully it does become more progressive in thinking. Hopefully the NFL actually cares about the things they say they care about, because I honestly don't think they don't. Don't get me started on my corporations rant. But for me, like, football isn't about your feelings, Melvin Gordon. You want to change their mind, go play better.
It's still a business of people, right? I mean, it's not. Look, I think
it's a person they don't like. I mean, it's clear they don't like him. I don't care if we're going to start him. Like, they don't like him.
But that doesn't mean you don't owe him the professional courtesy of saying, look, you're not in the plans in the second half.
Did they tell Calvin Anderson why he got benched?
It's going. Why didn't I didn't check in on that? Because
You have to tell everybody. Do we have to
I
tell
think
everybody?
you do. I think you do. Yes, I think you. And I think you say, all right, it's not working. We're gonna try this. At least say something. Don't leave the player in the dark. And the other thing is also, and again, this is in Melvin Gordon's defense here. Everyone's focused on that shot from ESPN. I'm always looking at the bench area during a game, and what I saw. Yes, exactly. It's one of the good things about going to a game. I mean, anybody can see stuff on TV, right? I mean, if I'm not looking for stuff that you can't see on television, why am I on the road at the games? But the thing that I noticed is that he wasn't off on his own. He was standing because there's always a cluster of players, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. They're always standing together on the sideline because they know they could be called in at any moment to the next play, right? And he was very much in that group. He was holding his helmet. He didn't have it on, but he was holding his helmet. He could put it on in the snap of a finger. I mean, so what we have that moment that was captured by the camera, but it doesn't reflect the overall picture of what I saw when I was looking down at the sideline.
Yeah, the optics aren't great for the Broncos, no matter how you slice it. And they're not great for Melvin Gordon because of what the TV copy showed, and that's what people are going to focus on.
Yeah.
So, like, at the end of the day, they're starting him. And what bugs me, Mace, and we don't do this, fortunately, but when people make these wild assumptions, either way, of whatever this means, it's Nathaniel Hackett's a moron, or this is the greatest move ever. Like, he's starting because he started last game, and it's probably not going to mean a whole lot. They're still going to use committee. They're still going to use Latavius Murray. They're still going to use Mike Boone, and gasp that Latavius might have a few more carries than Gordon, or Gordon might have a few more than Latavius. Like, it's still going to be three-headed backfield.
And, and that may be the way to go when you don't have an alpha right now. At this point, Melvin Gordon probably, he's probably basically a number 2 running back in terms of how he would slot into a team, the way things are going and the way things are trending. And and it has not even if you took out the fumble, Cecil, it would not be a banner season for Melvin Gordon.
No, he's less than 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, this is a guy who 4.5, 4.6 the last couple of years is below 4.0 this year. Now,
right.
Some of that's on him. I think some of that is on up front. We talked about the issues on the offensive line as well. I don't think this is strictly on number 25.
Yeah, it's not all on Melvin Gordon. He's not doing himself any favors. And you mentioned the trade deadline coming up on November 1st. Would it be your assumptions, Mace, that the Broncos would be sellers? Obviously, I don't think they can be buyers on the trade deadline.
I think they could be some. I think last year, remember, they sold Von Miller, but they also brought in Stephen Weatherly and Kenny Young there in deals before the deadline. So they sold the big piece, but they bought some fringe pieces that allowed them to keep their net number of draft picks. This year, though, I think it is more likely that they're sellers, but I don't think they're big sellers. Like I know people may say, "Oh, Bradley Chubb." I don't think they're going to get the price they want on Bradley Chubb right now.
No.
So I don't think he's somebody they're going to sell. I do believe that if he is sold at some point, it's more likely that you're talking about a tag and trade in the offseason that would get you more back in return than the compensatory pick if he just went in free agency and walked away.
Right.
So I don't think Bradley Chubb is going anywhere in the next couple of weeks. I do think Melvin Gordon would not surprise me if he is dealt in the next couple of weeks. Wouldn't surprise me if Jerry Jeudy, if they do accept some calls on him. I don't think they deal him willy-nilly. I think they'd want a fair offer. I don't think it's going to be a fire sale, but I think the Broncos are going to listen.
Yeah, they'll listen to those offers. And when I saw Kendall Hinton out there catching passes against the Chargers, I thought of this show, Mace, because everybody needs a Kendall Hinton.
Well, I mean, it's not hard to picture your three wide sets being Cortland Sutton, Kendall Hinton, and KJ Hamler. I mean,
yep.
KJ just seems to make good things happen when he gets involved.
He made that touchdown to Dulcich happen.
Yeah.
Because of the crosser, and the defense was so worried about his speed that he took two defenders, and Dulcich was wide open.
Well, if you go back 2 years ago, it was a different offensive coordinator, different quarterback, of course. But you saw what happened when the defense didn't follow KJ Hamler when they went to Carolina, and he was wide open against Carolina in much the same way that Greg Dulcich was wide open. So it's, there are always callbacks and echoes in almost any offense, right? I mean, there are always patterns when you look at what teams do. So, hey, good. He does tend to make things happen. I know the Broncos are concerned about his leg coming off the ACL, coming off the dislocated hip, even the history of hamstring injuries, but. And I think, and also he has to go through a lot of prep every day just to be ready, but he's willing to go through that work. And I think you got to turn him loose and maybe just kind of knock on wood and say, all right, hope that his healing limbs respond and let him do his thing, because right now they need something dynamic in this offense.
Something explosive. Hamler brings that.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton was a non-factor on Monday night. 2 catches, 14 yards. Jerry Jeudy had that, had a nice play when Russell Wilson rolled out and found him for the 37-yarder, but it hasn't been consistent enough. He doesn't come back to the ball in the way that you'd like him to. I think you got to involve KJ Hamler, and I think part of involving KJ Hamler, Cecil, is getting Russell Wilson out of the pocket and getting him moving.
And you set that up with running the ball, and then you can take a play action shot. You can launch it down the field, and Hamler can run underneath it. Where's those moon balls that we were promised from Russell Wilson? Plus, you have Trinity Benson. You got Brandon Johnson signed. Like, you have talent. I'm not going to talk about number 12. But, like, you have talent at the wide receiver position that are receiving weapons that can be explosive. Benson was the star at training camp last year before he got traded. And we both like what we've seen from Brandon Johnson. So why not see what you can get from Jerry Jeudy? Again, don't take a 7th rounder for him. But if you're getting into a day 2 pick, which includes a 3rd rounder, I am definitely thinking about that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the other thing, as we've talked about, if you make that move with Jeudy, Kendall Hinton's more on lines what you want in a slot receiver anyway. When you go 3 wide, I like the idea of getting KJ on the outside, Cortland Sutton at his current spot, and then having Hinton in the slot, and then when you effectively want to go 4 wide, or you want to have your tight end stand up. I mean, keep using Greg Dulcich. Most of Greg Dulcich's work Monday night formationally, he was operating in that in that move tight end position. He was in space. He was stand up.
Yeah, which is fine. That's what he does. Don't ask him to do what he's not good at doing yet. But he's really good at getting open and running after the catch. So
maybe abandon the wide receiver screens for a little bit though.
Yeah,
on back-to-back plays. Have you ever seen
back-to-back
it
plays.
on
No.
back-to-back plays? I haven't either.
It doesn't work. Let's do it again.
Well, okay, it failed the first time. It's bound to work the second time. Oh, they couldn't possibly be expecting us to do the same thing. Well, no, they were. They had that read. The Chargers had a lot of things read Monday night. I mean,
have you heard Mark Schlereth's thing about Dalton and the snap? Like every time they're away, they do 1/1000. Dalton will hit Cush 1/1000 snap.
Yeah,
it's that way every time. I noticed it. I hadn't talked about it publicly. I hadn't talked about it privately. But
did Stink talk about publicly this morning? Or
I believe so. Yes. If not, then I just spilled the beans. But yeah, watch them anytime they're on the road. Dalton was looking back. He turns around. He hits Cush 1/1000 snap every time.
Yeah.
So you talk about having a read. I mean, Russell Wilson under pressure, there's part of your pressure.
Well, I mean, you watched the way when Derwin James attacked and when Drew Tranquill attacked on the A-gap.
Tranquill with a couple sacks.
Yeah. I think if you look at Tranquill's second sack in particular, obviously, like you're blitzing. There's they've got a numerical advantage there. The Chargers do.
Yeah.
But he's got that timed. Like he starts moving when he sees what's going on pre-snap. He had that judged perfect, and he had no chance at that moment, right?
Yeah. And it goes back into what Nathaniel Hackett. I think you yelled about that yesterday. We're sorry for yelling, everybody. It's emotional, but you yelled about that yesterday. It's like, what are you getting out of the huddle? What? Huh? What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's why they can't use the hard count. And that's why they have to do the 1/1000 because they get up there with like 6 seconds left.
Yeah. I mean, how can you still have this procedural issue when you said you were going to fix it? You said you were going to fix the glitch. You didn't fix the glitch, obviously, because it's still there. I don't know. It's not the West Coast nomenclature. And yeah, we know West Coast nomenclature is complex. I mean, spitting the plays out in this language, in this verbiage, was a problem for Paxton Lynch. It was a problem for Drew Lock. But there are a lot of other teams over the years since 1979 and even before then, when this was the Ohio River offense in Cincinnati, when Bill Walsh was working under Paul Brown. You've had quarterbacks for generations that haven't had a problem getting the play call relayed and getting up to the line of scrimmage in time to run the snap before the play clock hits 0, right?
Yeah.
You're doing something wrong because so many other teams have run these principles and concepts and have run this offense and haven't had the issues getting in and out of the huddle before you go up to the line of scrimmage for the snap. It's, that was the thing. It's, I'll give you a pass. Like if you make the mistake and say you're going to fix it. All right. I mean, and coaches with players will always give a pass like to a mistake, right? In practice, it's when you make the mistake again and again and again. That's when you got a problem, right? If you didn't fix the glitch, that's when you've got an issue, right? And so that's why when I heard that answer yesterday, I'm thinking, you guys were supposed to have gotten this right. That's why Jerry Rosberg's here, right?
Right. Yeah.
Man,
so many
frustrating.
It is. And we spend a lot of time talking about the offense because that's where the problems are. Like defensively, I got 0 issues with this team. Are there some concerns? Of course. But look at Baron Browning. Look how much fun if they had pulled off some of these wins, right? Because they've been in the fourth quarter. They've been down by 3 at some point in the fourth quarter in every single game. So you can look at their record and you could flip it, right? And you could be like, oh, there you got 4 wins instead of 2 wins, like, or they're undefeated or whatever. But look at all the positives we'd be talking about. The young players coming through and a Caden Stearns when he's healthy. Your Baron Browning is making plays. Like there's so many positives on the defensive side that I wish we could spend more time with, Mace.
Yeah, and I hear people moaning about the depth on the roster. I'm like, let's talk about the defensive depth here, okay? Damari Mathis, look, it was a rough game for him. I think he's going to grow. The fact that he made that key 4th down play there when it mattered, showed the kind of progress he was making, showed the resilience that he has. But look at the rest of the defense. Alex Singleton has played out of his mind when he's had to go in there as your backup inside linebacker. Caden Stearns was terrific filling in for Justin Simmons when Simmons went on IR. You look at the defensive line. Deshaun Williams has had some flashes. Matt Henningsen had he wasn't blocked, but he did what you expect him to do when he's got that opening. He closed on Justin Herbert, got the sack, and Jonathan Cooper had a couple of QB hits getting hit when he got back in the lineup after that hamstring injury that he had a few weeks ago. I mean, you've actually on the defensive side, this team has a heck of a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And we've seen it.
Playmakers and players to get excited about, players that you want to see more from. And unfortunately, they're backups when everybody's healthy. But that's when, and trust me, I did plenty of ranting on who after the game. I'm so emotional. I'm so mad with the muff punt and overtime and just the disaster that was. But when people are like, fire George Paton, I'm like, no, you don't fire George Paton. Because people are emotional about the Russell Wilson trade. More people are catching on to how day 3 could have been different for the Broncos. I'm not going to mention it, Mace, but I'm just like, it doesn't mean fire George Paton. George Paton's forgotten more about football than you and I know, and you and I know quite a bit.
I'm even willing to say that I was wrong. You were right on Tariq Woolen. I did see and hear the words Tariq Woolen, Defensive Rookie of the Year.
The Brian Baldenberg piece, did you see that? I think he's the first one to call him Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I don't think I heard it from him. I think I heard it from somebody else, but so it's out there. The notion is out there. So yeah, Tariq Woolen. I mean, the only
every GM's going to have.
Should I just say Isaiah? Should I just say Isaiah Pacheco then? Should I just say his name?
Hey, Pacheco's not doing much. Chiefs aren't running the ball. They're still winning for the most part, except against Buffalo. But listen, George Paton is part of the solution.
Yes.
I firmly believe that. George Paton is part of the solution. So, we can be emotional, we can yell, and we can scream, and we can shake our fist at the heavens, but there's a certain point. I'm saying replace Butch Berry, replace Nathaniel Hackett. Like, these things will happen with time, as both of those two guys should probably be moved on from, my opinion. No way in hell would I ever say get rid of George Paton.
Yeah, and I think also with some of the assistant coaches in particular, it's fair to start wondering if this team continues to linger where it is, but maybe gets a little bit better. Let's say they come home at 8-9 or maybe 9-8. They're getting better, but you're still disappointed in the season. That's the range where you probably talk about you're keeping the head coach, but you're telling him, okay, some staff changes have to be made. I mean, to me, the most obvious one would be on the offensive line, and it would be
Butch Berry.
But my thing would be begging Mike Munchak to come back.
Oh yeah.
And then, as we just talked about with George Paton and his abilities in terms of identifying personnel, you don't pick until the 3rd round, but George Paton has found clearly, like, he's finding guys who can help in the mid to late rounds. I mean, Baron Browning was a 3rd rounder.
Cooper was a 7th rounder.
Yeah. Now he probably would have been a 3rd rounder if he didn't have the heart condition. Let's be fair.
Right.
But and that's one thing that I tell everybody with Cooper and why. Yeah, they very much see him as part of this overall rotation here on the edge, because they don't see him as a 7th round pick. They see him as a day 2 talent who fell to day 3 because of that medical condition. And so, and that's why when you're we go back to the earlier thing on Bradley Chubb, what happens with him? Well, it's looking around and saying, Randy Gregory's under contract, Baron Browning looks like a stud, and you might have 2 very good rotational guys developing in Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito. Bonito's got a ways to go in terms of setting, in terms of his work on the edge, setting the edge. But we know that he's already got some pass rush moves. You can and that's why I would trust George Paton to say, all right, go get some offensive linemen. Let's find some guys to develop. And if you had a Mike Munchak back on the staff, I'd have a lot of confidence in the development of those guys. And by the way, they may have already found one long-term potential answer on the interior line when they get Luke Wattenberg in there probably next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm never going to tell a fan how to fan, Mace, and I understand the emotion. I'm right there with them with the emotion. But I think for the rest of the season, it's who's part of the problem, who's part of the solution. Russell Wilson is part of the solution. For everybody, he's washed up. No, he's not. He's battling a couple of injuries, and he's trying to find the fit with Nathaniel Hackett, whether Hackett stays here or not. But who's part of the problem? Who's part of the solution? Clean it up at the end of the year. It sucks that I have to say that in week 7, Mace, but I think that's for our sanity. That's the best. That and watching the Avs and Nuggets.
Hey, we get Nuggets action tonight.
I know.
Against the Utah Jazz. Going to be the Nuggets looking as they should, hopefully, against a retooling Utah Jazz team, to be kind. Boy, they're going to be as bad as their new uniforms this year, which suck. They're terrible. I mean, you've seen them, Cecil, right?
Where's the marketing departments at in these places? Like anyone with half a brain would realize that's a bad look.
Yeah. You had the dadgum near perfect logo for a team named Jazz all along. The music note with a basketball with a J. What are you doing? What are they doing? Anyway, I could go on, but yeah, Nuggets Jazz has given us some very fascinating matchups over the years. It's not going to be must-see TV this winter for the Rocky Mountain rivalry. Is that it's Rocky Mountain Cup in soccer between Real Salt Lake and Rapids? What do we call the duel between the Nuggets and Jazz? Is it just the Rocky Mountain rivalry? What's
I didn't know anything about soccer, so you're surprising me.
It's the Rocky Mountain Cup between the between Real and, by the way, Real Salt Lake. What a comical name that is. Colorado Rapids at least makes sense.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, the Utah Jazz, I know they were in New Orleans, but it's like, could you just switch the name, please? Could you please get the New Orleans Jazz back?
You know what I love for a while there in Salt Lake City? They leaned into having 2 Z's on the nicknames for everything. So they had a WNBA team that's called the Utah Stars, STARZZ. And then for a while there, their minor league baseball team was called the Salt Lake Buzz. As
they love their Z's. They'll put you to sleep.
Oh yeah, you went there before. You went there before I did. Well, as was said in the movie Flex, Utah's not exactly a cure for boredom.
We better watch out. We work for Bonneville. Anyway, it is orange and blue today. We're totally kidding.
I actually, by the way, by the way, you know what?
Ogden is beautiful, by the way. Ogden, beautiful.
And actually, if you ever just happen to connect through Salt Lake City Airport, and sometimes, it's a hub airport for Delta, so a lot of people connect. I'm telling you, like, that has one of the most beautiful vistas of the world, the Salt Lake City Airport. So yeah, it's not all, it's, Salt Lake's got some good things. Hey, our old friend Paul Kirka, it works for the University of Utah too, as their associate AD for communications. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Love Paul.
Yeah. Having a big season with all things Cam Rising out there for the Utes.
That's right. It is orange and blue today, every day at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. He is Andrew Mason. I am Cecil Lammey saying thanks very much for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. And as always, I command that you stay frosty.